I'm in my ECS cluster. I can schedule a task to run on this cluster. So under schedule task, you can create a new schedule task. So click create, give it a name. So in this case, I'm going to name it as my frequent job. You can give a description if you like, and I'm not an expert in con expression, so I'm just using the UI to run a task every 1 minute. You can give a target ID, something like my XYZ. You can give any name that you like. What's the task definition that you want to run? So you need to give the version also. So number of tasks I want to run 1. So every 1 minute it's going to start this task. So before creating create, let's go and explore what you have under rules in CloudWatch. So as of now, I don't have any rules. So when you click create, what will happen is behind the scene, ECS uses CloudWatch to schedule this task. Give it some time to create and provision this scheduled task. So the task is scheduled. So if you go into the CloudWatch, you can find that there's a new rule being defined, and if you edit it, you will find that it's pointing to the ECS task and how to run it. So here you find the con expression. You can edit it if you like, and it says what task to run. Let me go into my ECS cluster again. You can find that still there's no any running task. So after 1 minute, if you keep refreshing, it will start a new task. So keep refreshing. You need to wait until 1 minute and you will see one task. In this case, it's pending. Refresh it again. And if you're lucky, so it's in running state. The nature of the job that I'm running is that that job never stops. This is a very unusual job because it's a job that runs forever. But usually a batch job runs for 1 or 2 hours and then it stops. But in this case, because the job never stops, if you keep refreshing, the number of tasks will, the running task will increase. So it will start task until the cluster run out of resources. So we know that the maximum number of tasks that this cluster can support with one EC2 instance with a given EC2 instance size with about 1024 CPU units is 2. So if you keep refreshing, it will increase to a certain level and then stop provisioning additional task. So keep refreshing, you will see another task that will appear in the starting state. You can find that it's now you have 2 tasks because the previous task still haven't finished, and the scheduled job started a new task, realizing another minute has passed. If you look at the cluster now, if the cluster does not have enough resources, it will not start additional task even though the scheduler says to start a new task. So as of now, this cluster runs only 2 tasks. The reason being it doesn't have enough capacity or CPU units to run additional tasks. There are multiple ways you can increase the number of tasks running on this cluster. One is to add more compute and memory resources into the cluster by increasing the number of EC2 instances back in this. The second option is to reduce the resource demanded by the task. So what I'm going to do now is to go to task definition and then reduce the amount of resources demanded by this task. So in my task definition, you can find under my batch app task, I have multiple versions. This is because prior to this recording, I played around with this and then created multiple versions. So the number of versions you see in your console may be different from what you see in this video. Select the latest version and then click create new revision. You can now go there and then modify the parameters available in this task definition. As of now, you can find the container that I'm running request about 1024 CPU units. and from the time that you run 2 of these containers, the cluster run out of capacity. So let's try to reduce this number of CPU units. So under CPU units, this is where it requests 1024 CPU units. So let's put a number like 128. So click update. So that will update the amount of resources this container demands. And once you are done with the change, click create. So once you click create, it will create a new version of that task. So here you can find that it created version 4 because previously the version that I had was version 3. So the task definition change is done, but my cluster still runs only 2 tasks. So this is because the 2 tasks that I'm running right now is still the version 3. So you can find the version of the task running, and that version of the task still demands 1024. So you can find that you can run multiple versions of the same task. And in this case, what I'm going to do is to change the schedule and then update it to run the new task. So let's go back into my cluster and go into my Contoso cluster. If you look at the scheduled task, you can find that this scheduled task is not updated with the latest changes I made to the task. So if you edit it, it still points into the version 3 of the task, but I want to update it with the latest version. So let me point this one to the latest version and then click update. So this will update all the places where the new task has to be updated. And once you do that, you will find that the cluster still will not run the new task. This is because the 2 tasks, the old 2 tasks, still occupies all the cluster resources. So the only way to provision some additional task is to allow more containers run by stopping these existing task. So let's stop this. So when you stop this, what will happen is it will release the CPUs used by these 2 tasks, and that will allow some CPU units to the cluster. And if you keep refreshing and then look at this cluster after a few minutes, so every minute it's going to start 1 task, but in this case it's not going to stop from 2 tasks. It will keep adding new tasks until the cluster runs out of resources again. So keep refreshing and then observe what happens and how many tasks it will start on this cluster. I now have 1 task running. After a few minutes, you have another task running. Because the number of resources I'm requesting on this cluster is less, now you can find after 3 minutes it started another task because the cluster has enough resources to provision 3 tasks in this case. So after about 6 minutes, it has started 6 tasks. So you can keep refreshing until the number of tasks increases. So of course, I don't want these tasks to run forever like this and use these T2 instance CPU balancers. So to stop this, you can delete this schedule that I have defined, because otherwise what will happen is every time when the cluster finds some resources, it's going to go there and then start a new task, and you will easily burn the T2 instance CPU balancers by running this task. So let me delete this schedule. So make sure when you complete your lab exercise that you delete that schedule, and also make sure that you stop all these tasks that are not needed. So you can do it stop all. Simply type stop all, and that will allow you the button to press, and that will kill all the tasks that is running on the container instances.